Welcome into the Fresh Inspiration Show, Mindset Transformation, Entertainment. Hi, my name is Rhonda Liebig, and I am the host and creator of the show. I love me a lot of vitality, a lot of inspiration. We had 5 incredible stars in episode 20. You're also getting this in podcast. The Fresh Inspiration Show. I am really enjoying hosting the show. When I first started doing this, it felt so huge and overwhelming. And now, doing this for over 5 years, I'm starting to really learn the process of, what's making me feel limited about like this is a big show and I can't handle it. And have you ever felt like that? Well, the show is kind of about this. It's about like arriving on time, like giving yourself this experience of like almost like bending time. Have you ever had this experience where you thought that something was going to take a full hour or a half a day, and somehow your body gets dialed in, and then your heart is in it? Your brain goes straight there and it's just being with it. No, it's not this like, well, maybe I do this, maybe I do that, all this wishy-washiness, all this chatter in the background, 60,000 words that we say to ourselves a day. 80% of that is known to be negative. So let's say you're doing some mindset transformation, entertainment, but you still know that there's a high percentage of negativity going on. It may not be 80%, but these daily strategies, essential. So when I started getting in truth about why I'm here on earth, now I want to ask you that. Why are you here on earth? Have you found it? Are you living in your passion? No matter what level you're at, where you feel the gauge of where you are in your passion to maybe wanting to be there and learning how to get there, you're going to get the tools today. Now, if you're getting this in episodes through podcast, you're going to have 4 different podcasts because we had a 4-hour show. So make sure you grab all 4 of those because we have me, Rhonda Liebig, host of the show. Rhonda Lumoxie did not show up, which is my speaker name when I give myself a spot where I get to be your vitality coach. But I hosted it pretty good this month. Episode 19 in the podcast I'm very proud of. First, we had a reoccurring star, Janeen Olmos. Janeen is a resilience coach, and she likes to work with SOS, like really big. Oh, I'm ready to, tackle something that's so big that's stopping somebody that's like right there in front of them, and she can see it and she loves to move it. So she has these resilience tools. And we were talking about how people have stuff going on, but they just don't realize it, and how you say it in a way where people feel safe. So a lot of this show is a lot about safety. We had Maud Miller. Maud Miller, she calls herself an angel mom. Her daughter passed away. The stories that she shares. She has a beautiful butterfly in the background. So if you're getting this in podcast, you can go over to our YouTube and watch the podcast over there and find me, Rhonda Liebig. You will find the Fresh Inspiration Show as one of the groupings. Maud Miller speaks about how she has butterflies all around because her daughter said, Mama, when I come back and after I pass on from this earth, I know I want to come in as a butterfly. So I'll be around. I'll be around you all the time. And so Maud has her stories, but she gets in there and says, hey, when is it your time? My daughter passed on. She only had so much time, but she stepped into it. When are you going to step into it? Oh, what a real moment. Wow. Then we had Brenda Wood. Brenda Wood, incarcerated for years. She did some things in her background, out around the wrong people in business, and things happened. They went down. So she was incarcerated, and she knew that there was a purpose for her to be in there. At first, she was very, very angry, and she speaks to us here at the show saying, what are you angry about? What are you ready to let go? Are you in your prison? And even though those are imaginary walls, you truly, don't you feel it? You're truly in there. So the way Brenda Wood explained it, oh, so incredible. I loved her stuff. Heidi Wild, this woman is wild, but it's with an E. And Heidi spoke about how she got into smoking pot, how that affected her whole world because she couldn't stop. She was smoking pot even on her breaks. She was trying to hide it. She was doing all these things because she wanted to numb herself. Oh, these are great, great stories. Nobody can make up these stories. Then she gets in there deep and she talks about, and she kind of tethers with all the other stars and she speaks about what they're doing and saying, hey, this is your time. This is your time for health, because she represents health. Then we have Jill Reynolds speaking about when she had a body that was like a 10, and she expresses what a 10 is and the crazy things she did and how she almost died. And her stories are incredible. You're really going to love Jill Reynolds. That's what the show is about. It's about having fun, but it's about getting in truth with the stuff that's right there in front of you that is shackling you, that's stopping you from being you, the lovely, beautiful being that you are, and to recognize that so that you lead with your heart. You open up yourself authentic. And I was thinking of authenticity, like to be able to be in that space where you get to just be you. Nobody else. Nobody can be you. And that's what this is all about. So I enjoy the show. At the end, I'm going to share with you some things that the Fresh Inspiration Show is up to, because right now we're swapping stages. A lot of our stars are going onto other people's stages. Other people's stages, they're opening up stuff for us. So you see us all over the place with the stars going to different places. And you're going to be able to see all the new things that are going on because we have lots of new stars coming up. Stay close to the Fresh Inspiration Show. We got more for you. Enjoy the podcast. Enjoy the episode if you're finding it on Roku TV. Mwah. Love you.
Fresh inspiration. Fresh inspiration. Fresh inspiration. Fresh inspiration.
And I share this because it was quite a journey. It was really dark. I didn't tell anybody. Even during my work, when I had a pretty responsible job, I'd go in, I'd be out in my car, having a little pot, take my lifesavers and making sure I wasn't smelling, go back in. And it would take me 10 extra minutes to write a text or an email. And I got to a point where I prayed. I could not stop. This stuff had a hold on me. And I feel that everything happens for a reason. I know, and I'm really grateful for every single thing I've ever gone through, because it's made me who I am today. So eventually, as the divine intervention would have it, I met a woman in a checkout aisle of a grocery store in 2016, because this was about 2014, 2016. And long story short, I started seeing her for sessions. I invited her to my spiritual church that I was going to at the time. We walked out of the grocery store together. In fact, there was a man between us that got plucked out of the aisle. We don't even know today from where he ever went. But here this woman was, and Grace put her in my life to help me. And I brought her to church, and then she said that she does sessions. She's a holistic practitioner. Did I want to go? And I was like, and I didn't know how to stop. So I said yes. And right before my session, I tried to bail. I called and said, the mind, the ego came in and said, you're not getting help. And then she talked me off the ledge. I ended up going there, and she said, you need to choose between marijuana and you. I said, I don't even know who I am to choose me. I want to know who I am. So the work began, the real work. So I had been doing some internal work prior with consciousness workshops and Abraham Hicks and a lot of things. But now, the teacher comes when the student is ready, right? And I started peeling back the onion and looking at my life and looking at my wounds. And, we all have trauma. Even if someone rips a lunchbox out of our hand in the bus stop, one moment in life could have traumatic experiences that we bury. I remember years ago, I don't know if anyone remembers the show Rhoda, the TV show. Rhoda said to her sister Brenda, if you don't dump your garbage, you're going to start to stink inside. And I was 17 years old. I was a psych major in college, psych social. And I said, that is just, and I remember it however many years later. And now over the years, I have learned to feel my feelings. So what I will say to close my piece here is that I learned to feel my feelings and not judge them. Because one of the lady that I go to, her name is Andrea Fraze, and she would tell me, one day I was sitting in her office, and I was talking about the yucky feelings I was having the night before and how I sat in them. I didn't smoke them away, drink them away, think them away, task them away. I just sat and let them process, which is really the path to my joy. And she said, and she listened, and then she said something it was such an epiphany. She said, Heidi, would you consider not judging your feeling as yucky? That we learn that feelings are good and bad. Feelings are not good or bad. They're just feelings. And they're information for us. And to embrace them all. So when I started feeling my anger and frustration and all of that, I started feeling more joy. Who knew? And the full spectrum of the human experience. So I say this and listening to myself and sitting in silence and letting those answers come from within. And so I left AT&T in December of 2020, and a family member, someone really close to me, passed away of an overdose. And I looked out the window one day and said, this isn't working anymore. We did a reorg, so I wasn't doing the webinars. And then a few years prior, I had become involved with a mental wellness company that's all about gut health, holistic health, products and programs for stress, resiliency, anxiety, mood, energy, focus, kids, sleep, all of that. So I decided, I'm going to focus on that, helping people get healthy. I actually do webinars at AT&T during lunch and learns now on breathing and how to meditate and how to make good choices. But it's very focused on nutrition and fitness and really taking good care of ourselves, because what we put in our body, we get addicted to. What we put in our mind, we get addicted to. Who we hang around with, what we read, what we turn on the TV and listen to. And we have a choice every minute. Are we going to be incarcerated? Are we going to let other people drive our life, drive our bus? Are we going to let the mind drive our bus or the heart? And the mind has a beautiful place in collaboration. So earlier when I was called on before Maud, I was ready to dance. And this is another message that I would have. How ready to dance are you? What if someone called you up on stage when you weren't prepared and said, you're on. We have somebody that couldn't come. You go now. So and take that deep breath. Ask for guidance. Ask for the right words. sometimes I forget to ask for support from my higher God within. And it's just to remember that we're supported and that our life can go in any direction we want it to. We have that free will to make good choices or to make the choice. And even if it's not a good choice, to learn from that and to be really appreciative and grateful that every moment that we have is so precious, and that I'm so grateful for that addiction, because now I can understand how addiction really is. And it sometimes, I have a saying, sometimes you have to dip to soar. Look at that eagle. It doesn't go like this. So I'm also part of an energy company that is all about bioenergetics. And I'm really learning about all the way to holistically live a beautiful, healthy, active life so that I can be my best self and bring my best self to others and support the way I'm called to.
Mm. Heidi, so many nuggets, my friend. I love the Rhoda quote because you just started riffing after that too, just like about everything that you consume or eat. It's like that numbing. And I know the theme today is about, we can hear this about the the theme is about, let's get in truth, let's get into authenticity, let's get into our health. And like, health is all about being present, and all the stuff you're talking about, it can numb you and stop you from being the true you and stop hiding. And I love how you're Heidi Wild, that you were talking about how somebody said, hey, come on over, we'll talk about, you've been smoking pot. And I'm like, it's kind of like a mild like introduction. You're like, oh no, I don't. Okay, yeah, oh yeah, I don't need it. And then she got straight to the point. But I love how you were able to finally step into that and feel that where things were feeling that you weren't really living. You're just absorbing, but you're such a smart woman, everything you're doing. And so to be in that space, what a learning experience, because everything that you're experiencing and saying, what is happening, I can see that our viewers are going to be learning about what they're consuming. What is this life about if you don't get out there and be vulnerable? And we want to numb ourselves if we are afraid to take that step forward. So there was a healing component there. You're giving so many tools today
Oh,
too.
thank you. Well, I put my crown on. We're all kings and queens, and it's all about posture, right? It's not just posture physical, but that's important.
Yeah.
It's also, how do we posture ourselves? How do we want to be seen? What do we want to be known for? What is that legacy that we want to leave? How do we want to have people feel when they say our name? And I really appreciate being here today among everybody. So we're all so unique and we're so alike.
We're on a crusade,
And I
Heidi.
I
Oh,
wanted to say one thing too with Heidi.
do it.
Heidi is, like she said, is just a fabulous, fabulous, kind, listening leader and coach. And when I met Heidi, I had started in with the mental wellness company, and I had a leader who was really harsh and not compassionate. And I switched teams and joined Heidi's team, and she's always there for you. And just, I mean, she just is so unbelievable. So I put the link in here to be, if anybody's interested, to be on Heidi's team with me with the mental wellness company, because the products really, really reduce anxiety and depression. And she's an amazing, amazing leader.
Oh, thank you,
I
Jill.
got that. I got that in our group too. I know I've been tagging everyone. So you go in the group and you can post even more things. That's what this is about. And I'm gonna break it down for you too, so you can get into each component, so you can capture whatever you want. Thank you, Jill, for adding that. I so appreciate that. Heidi, Thank you. Thank you for being. And there's someone that's connecting with you. That's like the ding, like somebody's got their wings. Heidi, thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate being here and sharing my story. Perhaps it will, someone will say me too. And I'll say one quick other thing. I was with AT&T still, and I was ready to share my story. And we talked about, where are we in the story? Are we ready to, are we coming from that place of victim? Or have we moved through it? And so I put on my Facebook page all about my journey and my pot addiction. And I was ready, right? And I had like 300 people commenting and couldn't believe it. You really? And, I was the best actress. I could have won an Academy Award, let me tell you. And I remember my manager came to me at the time and said, Heidi, you have a really, big, like, you're seen at the company. Do you really want to have this out there? And I thought about it, and then I'm like, oh, and I ended up taking it down after. However, the people that saw it were supposed to see it. And you can't even imagine how many people sent me notes to say, me too, I drink too much wine, my kid's on pot, can you talk to them, blah, 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 whatever. And, I'll also say this, I'm not here to fix anybody. Nobody needs fixing. We are all perfect going through our journey. I will share my story and tell you how I got through things, how I became into a self-love place, and to try, or not try, I don't use that word, to attempt to remove someone's experience is really selfish, because everyone has to go through their own journey and learn. Not that we can't be supportive, but to take that pain away, or to take, I learned that that's where the juice is, to go through the mud into the lotus. So thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you. Woohoo! Good energy. Good work. Okay, so the Fresh Inspiration Show. Okay, so we opened the door, and you started your morning, and you had a blank piece of paper. Oh, we had a blank piece of paper, and then you started writing, and so now we're like more than halfway in through the show. How are you feeling? What is this? Because we're looking now that we've been doing this for a bit. Are you feeling it in a way that you can start opening your arms, and there's something here, like maybe a heart soaring, or maybe your belly is like, oh my gosh, and you start feeling that healing. You're ready to absorb your food, which Heidi would love to know, because she's all into this health and wellness. Me too. I've been doing this for 20 years. I care about your health and wellness. But you see how the community here, the stars are also, like what Heidi said, we are all different, but we are on a crusade. And it's like this swing going back and forth. So if you're ready for that, get on your crown, because Heidi's been putting hers on. I'm ready to introduce Tanya Joy Gibson. And you got to see her interview in our community. And yeah, Tanya's ready. She's like, okay.
There's the crown.
Okay. And then if you didn't catch it earlier, Tanya was sharing her experience of how you carry the crown when you're getting interviewed, because you're carrying it. You're not like putting it on your head, which I didn't know about. We're learning fun facts. And we're talking about beauty for ashes. And we're talking about, like, what does that mean? Keep your curiosity, because we have some big stuff going here. So Tanya Joy Gibson, Beauty for Ashes, a former Miss Illinois in 96, Miss America pageant at 19 years old, singer and actress performing through the U.S., and has found her deep calling through ministry school. Tanya is now a worship leader throughout the country. Tanya has a calling to inform, encourage, and build up those who are part of a remnant of Christ. Tanya has a passion to see others learn what their identity is in Christ, find freedom, and learn how the Word of God truly builds transformation. She will be here sharing how you are here to arrive late no more in our theme. Tanya Joy Gibson. Woo-hoo! I'm gonna
Thank
have to keep clapping.
you. I'm so excited to be here. I just want to say thank you again for inviting me and for including me in this. This is a new journey for me. I will say I'm probably um, the baby of the group as far as being out there and speaking and getting to share my story. Years ago, like yes, this crown. I'll give you a little background. This was my Miss Illinois crown, and I don't know where, I don't think that these can be purchased. You either get one for winning a title or you don't. But here's an interesting thing. See how this has, and look at it's terrible. I've got gemstones missing from it. But this under layer, it's got this first layer. So I have another one of these from my county level or my city level. And that was called it was for Miss Fox River Valley. And it doesn't have this extra layer. And then Miss America's looks exactly like this, except that hers has another layer of this underneath. So that's if you ever happen to see somebody who has a crown that looks like this, you can tell if it's a city, state, or national level based on how many layers. Fun fact, right? And my kids have played with it, and it's been sitting in boxes, and it's moved way too many times. And so there's gemstones missing, sadly. But that's what happens in life. In some ways, I kind of like that because when I look back at this time, I won this on my 19th birthday. And I went into the pageant as a first runner up. I had not won at the local level. And it was truly an Esther story. My heart is really, I love the story of Esther from the Bible. And the reason I love it is I think because I kind of encountered that and have walked that during my life. One of the contestants who won at the local level, I was first runner up to her. Without revealing too much, she couldn't go to the state pageant for some physical reasons. We'll just leave it at that. Imagine the movies. And so, 29 days before the pageant, they asked if I would like to go in her place because I was first runner up. And I said, yeah, I definitely want to go. And so I had about 20 days to prepare. And, so many of us have talked about, being healthy and wellness and our body and our physique. And as women, we are bombarded by what we look like on the outside. Everywhere we look, that is the focus, right? And that's detrimental, in my opinion, to women. It's detrimental to our psyche. It's detrimental to our physical health, our mental health, our spiritual health. At any rate, I had 20 days to get ready. So you want to talk about crazy crash dieting and horrible eating. I lost way too much weight in a very short time. I've lived through the consequences of that for the rest of my life, sadly. And now I've learned I am a very clean eater and embracing, where I'm at. But that was how I got to go to the pageant. And then I showed up that week and ended up winning the talent portion. And it was a very spiritual experience for me. I am a believer in Jesus Christ, and I believe in the prophetic. I believe God still speaks to us today. And at the time, I actually had been at a few events and had some people pray for me and said, there's a Queen Esther story coming to pass. Now, this was before I knew I was going to the pageant. And so when I then got that call, I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. Like, I wonder if I'm going to win. And then when I won the talent part, I just knew in my spirit I was going to win. And so then the next night I won. So that was my experience at a very young age. And then I went from there, and life took a huge quick turn. I ended up getting married a year later and started having babies. I'm a trained singer and actress, and that was what I thought I would do for my career. That was my hope. That was my dream. And once I got married and started having babies, that dream got further and further away, and it got smaller and smaller. And life happened. Real life happened. I was in a very bad marriage. There was infidelity. My children, there was a lot of stuff that happened with my children. I tell people I'm a 3-time divorced woman. So I fully understand the pain and rejection that comes when a spouse is unfaithful. It's very, again, talk about an impact on a woman's soul and mind and being. It's detrimental. And so I started a journey that I was on for about 22 years that basically is similar. There's so many pieces of what everybody talked about, how we lose ourselves or we don't know who we are. And that was the journey I was on. So here at 19, I won this amazing title and, traveled the country, and I was on TV shows and I was speaking to, 2.5 years, 3 years later, just being absolutely broken. Absolutely a broken individual. And I still loved God. I never turned my back on him, but I didn't understand his ways. And I didn't understand how a loving God could allow such horrible things to happen to me, particularly because I always loved God. And, you have that mindset, well, if we serve God, everything's going to go well. That's not the case. That's not the way that it works. And so I spent 22 years raising my children on and off as a single mom, going through abuse, thinking my dreams were gone and shattered and that there was no hope for them to come back to life whatsoever. And every step and every piece of trauma and every piece of, disappointment. There's a scripture that says hope deferred can make the heart sick. And it was very interesting because about a decade into that, I got diagnosed with a blood disease, a blood condition that's connected to an autoimmune disorder of some sort. And so basically what was happening is my body was killing my white blood cells, which is not a very good thing to have happen because then you have no immune system. So I found out that this was going on and my doctor called. I remember him calling while I was still driving home from having the blood work done and asking where I was. And I said, well, I'm going home. And I had little kids at the time in preschool and then a baby. And he said, you cannot leave your house. Do not go. Don't be at the school. You can't travel. I don't want you in any hospitals. Don't be around any sick people. We're going to have to send you for some more testing. And I'm like, what are you talking? Like, I have toddlers. Are you kidding? Like, what do you mean? I can't be around people. And he said, yeah, there's something wrong we need to look into. And so I spent about 2 to 3 years after that, going to some big hospitals in the downtown area of Chicago for testing. I actually had a file that was, probably 6 or 7 inches large and went to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota and had a couple of day consultation with them because nobody could find what the root of this issue was. All they knew was my body was destroying my white blood cells. And I was ultimately, and I don't know that they even use this term anymore, but if you think of like the bubble boy syndrome, I don't know if you've heard of that, where, they had that movie where the person had to live kind of behind the plastic because they couldn't have germs. And that was because their white blood cells were so low, they couldn't have fought off anything. And that was what would happen to me. So for instance, if I got a scratch on my hand, I would show no symptoms of an infection. And then, a couple hours could go by and I could turn sepsis and and that has happened to me many times. I've had to have 911 come and they've had to bring me to the hospital. And quite frankly, it was more embarrassing than anything. It's happened when I've been at work. And so that started me on a really interesting journey because I was trying to raise my children. I was going through a divorce. I was sick. I didn't know why I was sick and nobody knew why I was sick. And I just was becoming more distraught and more broken. And this little verse had come to me. Someone had said, God will turn the ashes of your life into something beautiful. It's in Isaiah 61:3. And it says that he will crown you with beauty instead of ashes. And I was like, that's nice. I mean, literally, I was like, yeah, that's great. Good. Thanks for telling me. Yeah, I don't really want to hear it. I mean, I'm an honest person. I say it as it is. And that was what I thought. And my prayers would be, God, where are you? God, please help me. God, come and fix this. God, come rescue me. It was these desperate prayers. And I know God heard them, but that wasn't what he was looking for. And so that process, continued on. I went through, unfortunately, 2 more bad marriages. And at the end of the 3rd marriage, which was about 2.5, 3 years ago, I love counseling. I'm a big supporter. You get a good counselor, somebody who can help you walk through your areas of life. Because here's the thing, we all carry trauma. I love my parents. I have a fantastic family, and I've grown up in a fantastic family, but my parents are human. And so they've done things that of course have caused harm or trauma to me. I've done it to my kids. We live in a fallen world. And so that's always going to be there. And so when I started to really get to the end of this last marriage, I was heartbroken. All I ever wanted when I was young, other than to be an actress and a singer, was to be married. Like, I would pray for my husband I have journals from when I was 10 years old. You talk about like your journals, I journaled my entire life. I love journaling. And I used to pray for my husband. And I'm like, how is it that I can have prayed my entire life for a husband and had all these horrible marriages? Like, what am I missing? And I got to a point where I realized, okay, the only common denominator is me. So what do I need to look into? What do I have to pull the veil back and go, what am I missing? And so that was the journey I started. I started reading the Bible every single day, like no matter what. And honestly, I didn't understand it, even some of it, but I did it. I just thought I'm going to just do it because I knew that the word said, don't be conformed to this world, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so I started doing that. I had an opportunity to meet with these neurofeedback doctors, and they were brilliant. And so they did some searching, and they actually told me that I had a part of my brain that, because of so much trauma, basically, and everybody, like, I say that, but I hate to say that word because everybody has a different level. And so I don't want to come across as mine is more. Everybody has their own thing. But for me, these were traumas that had added up and they paralyzed me. And they said, your brain is stuck in overdrive, like a car. If you have a car, a stick shift, and you've got it stuck in overdrive and it's just, those high, that was how my brain was functioning. And so they began to teach me how to rewire my brain and how to rethink and retrain the ways that I thought. And so as I started that, this is crazy, I started getting better. I started getting physically healthier. I started getting mentally healthier. I started getting spiritually healthier. And at the same time, all of a sudden, friends that I knew who were directors started reaching out and saying, would you like to do, we're doing this play, this musical. I think you'd be great for this part. And I was like, I can't get back on stage. I haven't done stage in 20 some years. I've had 3 kids. When you have a placenta, half your brain goes with it. That's my funny philosophy on that one. I'm like, I can't remember anything. She goes, I'll help you. So as I started this process, and this really reiterates what a lot of these women have talked about, when we start to look at ourselves and recognize that, one, we have great value inside. We are called to be on this earth for such a time as this and to make an impact. We're not here just to pass through this life. We're here to make a difference in other people. And so as I started going through that process, all of a sudden doors started opening and I started having these opportunities. And so then it's almost been 1 year. May 5th is the 1 year anniversary. I got asked to do a podcast, and I was like, how do I do a podcast? I don't know how to do a podcast. I don't know what I would talk about. And the Lord kept saying, well, what have you been through? What's your journey? And I was like, well, the one thing I've held on to is this beauty for ashes thing, that God's going to take all of this stuff and he's going to turn it around. And he goes, well, then that's what you call your show. So on May 5th last year, I did my first show. I had an amazing guest that was on. I think we talked about it the last time I was on with you, Rhonda, and 4,000 people watched it. And I was like, wait, what? So I did another one and I did another one. And it has just been a journey of saying yes to the things that the Lord brings to me. And honestly, most of the things I step out in, I do it afraid. That's a phrase that I've clung to and said, you know what? I'm not going to allow the fear to hold me back anymore. Because when I looked back on the 22 years, the one common denominator was fear. I would get afraid. And that's a normal thing. It's okay. Like that is normal. We have that. But that fear can control all of our decisions and all of our outcomes, and it can paralyze us. And I realized that was what I lived for all those years. And so, yeah, I step out afraid. And I mean, I get the butterflies in I have a show actually tonight. We go live tonight at a local theater. And every time I step on the stage, I still get the butterflies. I still am like, okay, I hope I remember what I'm supposed to do. But there's such a release and a freedom that comes from that really and truly, I saw Heidi wrote, do it afraid. Yes, that's what I just do it afraid. And the more I do it, the less afraid that I am. That fear truly subsides. So that's where the name came from. So now I have this podcast, and my heart is truly to minister to other women because of the things I've walked through and seen. I have two daughters myself, and I've seen the impacts on them, and they're both very different. And I want to take my story and the things that I've walked through. And if I can share what I've walked through and the things I've learned and how I've had to learn how to really surrender to God and submit my will and my desires, as I've done that, He's brought them back so much bigger than I could have ever imagined. He opens doors that I never could have thought would be opened for me. And so that's where my heart is. The show that I do is a wide variety. I have medical doctors on. We talk about medical freedom. We talk about parental freedom. We talk about politics. We talk about dreams and dream interpretation. We talk about ministry. It's just a lot of different topics. And I love doing it, but my heart really is for women. I want to see women come to who they were created to be. I want to see women stop comparing themselves to each other. And I desperately want to see women break down the walls between themselves and finally lock arms and support each other in the place that each of us are at. Because as women, so many times our world around us has taught us to compete against each other. And well, this person has more talent. This person's prettier. This person knows more people. This one has more money. Whatever it is, we are divided. And I don't like that. And I feel like if women could come together, my gosh, we could change this world. I mean, we need the men. I'm not saying like bad things against men, but truly there is an aspect to being a woman that is so beautiful. And we have such an ability to have compassion and understanding. And even the way that our brains are made, where we can be thinking about lots of different things and do lots of things all at the same time. Men, they go to this one and then they turn and they go there and then they go there. We've been given such a beautiful gift as a woman. And so that's a big part of my passion, is to see women thrive, to see women walk in their calling, and support each other. And now I just talked a whole long time and I didn't watch the clock. So I don't know if I've talked way too much or not. So feel free to jump in, Rhonda.
I love you, Tanya. That was amazing. And no, you actually had like 5 more minutes, but you.
Oh, do I? Okay.
Yeah, you do if you want to go more.
Oh, no, Jill, hold on here. No, this is our time to come together and give love to Tanya. And Tanya, you end up at a great spot, my friend. I'm like doing this freedom and this whole thing and
Freedom dance.
yeah, and the journey here is so much about the full circle that you started out, which is we're talking about the crown, and people can judge about the crown, but the thing is you give love to that crown because you're like, that's the learnings. And the full circle is us women have been in scenarios, and if we really truly believe that we are supposed to be comparing and that the physicality is everything, then we miss the boat on all this beauty inside,
Mm-hmm.
and that there is no one way to look physically. It's
Right.
just you get to be the best health and the best joy
Yeah.
that you can find.
And honestly, over the years, I mean, I went from pageant weight, right? A pageant look, if you will, right? Stage look. And then I went to having babies for many, many years. I gained a lot of weight. I could have cared less. I could have cared less what I ate. I just enjoyed life. And then I got to a stage where I was like, okay, now I'm a little unhealthy and I need to get back. And then I did.
Yeah.
And it was real interesting. I'll just throw this in there. It was a very interesting thing to go through that as somebody who had come out of a stage pageant, where really your beauty, that's a big deal because people don't treat you the same. I did not get treated the same if I showed up without hair and makeup and I had some extra weight on me, and that crushed me and I hated that. And I thought, this is ridiculous that this is the culture that we are living in. And I know that still happens. It still happens today. But if we can come together, and that's what I love about this new media, like the fact, these new podcasts, this is the new media. This is the direction that we're going. And thank God, because I'm sick and tired of seeing the perfect tens on TV speaking on everything, because that isn't the representation of the general woman. It's just not. That's not reality. So that's my last 2 cents.
It's so funny because Jill was talking, and when Jill got interviewed, Jill has great stories, and Tanya partnering with you too, because we're transitioning to Jill, is that, Jill was expressing, there was times that Jill was like, what she's saying, like a perfect 10, because there is a body out there that people are saying, because what you may not hear this today, but you'll hear in the interview, so we need to make sure we put those in there. But Jill was stripping, and she was making great money, and because she had what she talked about, like the perfect, the perfect bod. And so we love hearing those stories because we get to learn from, like, yeah, it's great. And then when you bring in the health, and then you bring in the experiences of what, like, people treating you different, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm a very smart woman here. What are you?
That's
You're saying
right.
you're saying that since I have an extra 10 pounds? And Tanya, I think when we were speaking, like, when I got off of medicine, I gained 60 pounds almost
Oh, yeah.
instantly. People were
Me
like
too.
freaking out, like, what's wrong with her? And I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, this is and I absorbed it in my heart. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. This gives the platform of, like, I still feel beautiful, even though before you used to tear me up. I'd
Mhm.
like to play that game. I wouldn't go to parties if I had a couple more extra pounds. If I couldn't close my pants. So what you're talking about is beautiful, my friend. Jill,
One thing I wanted to say,
Brenda, Maud, yes, please add in.
yeah, one thing I wanted to say. So Tanya, when you were speaking and started at the beginning, I Googled it and put it in here, and I just want to share because it really brings home your story, Tanya. Is I typed up, unlike the other women who wanted to be chosen, Esther tried to evade the king, but she was the one picked to be his queen. This shows that her selection was part of the divine plan. Esther was meant to rule in order to bring deliverance to all of Israel. This is Tanya's Esther story of being chosen by the King of Kings, God the Father, Jesus Christ, empowered by his Holy Spirit. And so I think, when I've gotten to know you, Tanya, and you share that you're the Esther story, I can see that where you've moved from the queen crowned for Miss Illinois to being the queen honored by God the Father, who doesn't have to look beautiful, say the right words. He chose you just because he created you in his image and he adores you.
Mhm.
Thank you. That's so sweet. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, Jill.
That was beautiful. I would also, Rhonda, can I have 1 minute with Tanya?
Yeah.
Tanya, what you share about your journey is so palpable. It's so relatable in many ways to me as a woman. I never walked the pageant floor. However, it's that image. And what I want to share with you, and I'm getting goosebumps, what you're showing your children and other women and also other children that, you know, life can be really messy and it's okay to be not okay. You know, you're very open about, hey, I went through 3 marriages. I went through my health journey. I dieted for X amount of days to look that perfect self. And, you know, we're moving into a place in our world that I believe we're all uplifting and waking up. And, you know, it's women and voices like you that's just moving us forward in such a beautiful way. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that because this is new to share. Like you were saying, you were going to share your story, and then you're like, maybe not. It's scary. It's a scary thing to step out. I mean, I was working corporate America for a decade and I got fired in January because I started speaking out. And so it's scary. It's a scary thing to do, but it's necessary because our story, like everybody has said, each of us have a story that will touch somebody else's life. And if that part of our story can give one person that courage, then it's worth it. It's worth everything.
And, you know, we know when it's the right time.
Yes.
So if you're listening out there and you're not sure, we have our own answers. We know. Sit with ourselves and listen. Thank you.
Mm. And what I appreciate this, and we were probably talking in the discussion this last week, was when you're raising kids. So I have a boy and a girl, and for my son to be able to hear these stories and to really have truth in him as a man, that he gets to decide. The main society where there's these things that we're seeing, we're all coming together in such a gentle, loving space, but there's still those things out there. And then raising our daughters and for them to experience that, oh, it's just to see my 16-year-old daughter and be very athletic with a beautiful body and appreciate her body and not trying to compare it, but to be able to live and experience it and have those discussions, that's way different than what I understood when I was younger. So for us to be healing and talking about this, there's so much joy in the adults being able to hear your story because our little kid, but also that we get to clean and clear and help our children and grandchildren and just people that are out there when you go to the grocery stores, like what we were talking about. You just go to the grocery store and you're just kind of having these conversations. So Tanya, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for letting me share my story.
Yes, and I do want to be on your show. I'm thinking at
I would
some
love it.
freedom.
Everybody's invited.
Everybody, come along. Thank you, Tanya. Appreciate you, my friend, and I do love you. Thank you for sharing that. A lot of exposure there, and you're just all in it. We're back. What'd you think? What did you think about if you listen to one of the podcasts or all four? You can watch it on YouTube. You can get it on iTunes, iHeart. You can get it on Fire Stick. Oh, this is so much fun. If you watch the whole episode, oh, I love what our editor is doing. So I hope you got to participate in all of it. You used your journal and you got your great nuggets. I would love for you to share with us on iTunes your review. Oh, we would love that. Just to get word of how you are enjoying the show, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to host a show, but it is so much fun. Now, what you want to see is you want to make sure that you get in the Fresh Inspiration Show Mindset Transformation Entertainment Group. That's in Facebook, so that you can get in there and you can interact with us every month when we have a show. It's symposium style. So you can go in there, interact with the stars, get questions answered right away. It is fabulous. Also, we do a lot of different things. We do inspiration, we do Fab Friday Live, where I get to share these challenges that my assistant says, hey, Rhonda, what is it like to be showing up as a leader? Hey, Rhonda, you feel vulnerable this week because of this, this, and this. How are you doing? How are you breaking through? And so I'm constantly in there every Friday speaking about those things. I've been in business and I've been doing this stuff for about 20 years now, and being able to really just get into motivation. And I love doing that. Stay close to us. I appreciate you. You have an insightful day.